Can I taste your juice?
Fireside chat.
In Rochester, New York.
It could happen.
A couple of things I want to start off with. First of all, the reason why I talk to you so much is because you happen to be here in Rochester.
Right.
Okay? So, like, if the guy who made the Nemesis lived down the block from me, I would talk to him too.
Sure. Makes
Okay?
sense.
That's number one. Number two, my relationship with you has become a real pain in my ass.
And, and vice versa.
You know, here's why. Because everybody thinks that, like, I'm making this stuff. I get, when's he coming out with it? What is it going to be? What's it going to do? What's it going to look like?
Yeah.
And you really don't tell me anything till last minute.
No, I really don't, because for a couple of reasons. A lot of times I don't know until the last minute, and that's, you know, so a lot of times decisions, particularly fit and finish. Well, finish more than fit, but a lot of times with finish is we're experimenting right up until the time comes to actually launch. You know, I don't leave a lot of stones unturned as far as trying different things to see how everything turns out. Right. And so a lot of times I don't even know what the final is going to be. I know it's down to 2 or 3 different choices, but as far as what's the final going to be, I don't even know. So I have to be careful not to say here's what it is, here's what it's going to look like.
Right.
Because then people say, oh, I love that thing, I love that, you know. And then you come out with it, and it doesn't look the same. So, you know, a little bit of that has happened even with the ZNA, because, you know, people first saw it made out of aluminum, in kind of a brushed aluminum, and then they saw it in a shinier stainless at a couple of situations, and then it's finally come out and it's more of a satin finish. So, you know,
It's beautiful.
I'm glad you like it.
Okay.
I'm glad
Now,
you like
first of all, for those of you who don't know, this is Zen, House of Hybrids, the Zenesis. I mean, people know you by now, I would assume.
Yeah.
Real name Mike.
Yep.
Right.
Mike,
He does have a real name.
Yeah, I do. It's getting funny though. You say real people. You know, people know who I am. It's starting to turn into real people know who I am. It's like people that are outside of vaping are starting to spot me places. It's
weird.
It's getting weird.
Yeah. It's only happened to me twice. So far.
Yeah. It happened to me. It happened to me in Vegas this past week, where a few people, out of the blue, you know, I'm just walking on the street.
You were at CES.
I was at CES, yeah.
I want to go to CES so bad. Some year, you have no idea.
Go with me next year.
Well, I would love to.
I'll get you tickets.
Where? What was the purpose? Was it just to go and see things, or were you displaying things? Were you talking to people, making deals? What was going on out there?
I wasn't displaying. I went there because I wanted to see a couple of things. The first thing is that there was a whole section of CES that was dedicated to 3D printing and rapid prototyping. You know, and I wanted to go see what the latest innovations were in that.
Right. Okay.
And I spent about a day and a half poking around, talking to a lot of people in that industry, and have come to realize it's not going to do a whole lot for me, but maybe someday. It's just not ready for prime time.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of different 3D printers, anything from the $200 up to the, you know, the multi-$1,000 units.
Oh, I looked at one that was $100,000,
Yeah.
and it still won't do anything that is going to be better than going straight to the machines and making it.
Yeah.
And I think if somebody wants to prototype something and they don't have access to machinery, and they want to get a feel for what it feels like in their hand, although you won't have the weight, or what it looks like, although you won't have the finish.
Right.
You know, I think if somebody really wants to sketch something up and get a feel for how it's going to be in 3D, there may be some use for that. But all I have to do is walk right over there and spend some time with the guys that we've got working back here.
Right.
And I've got a working prototype that's made out of metal.
Sure.
And
was MakerBot there?
MakerBot was there.
Yeah.
MakerBot was there, and they're a major player in that. But even the finish quality, there's nothing. What's the best way to put this? You know, they foresee the future as being something a whole lot different than I think is practical. They foresee the future of everybody has a MakerBot in their house. And then you see an object that you want to buy, and you can, click and download the files, and then and then print it yourself. That's really the direction that they seem to be heading in, is sort of home fulfillment of 3D objects. So you want something, you just go buy the file and print it, or you print all of the parts and assemble it, or something like that. And I just don't see that as being, we're not there yet. The coolest application I saw for 3D printing was, they were 3D printing food. Okay?
3D printing what?
Food.
Food.
Candy and pastries and stuff like that.
That's just what I need.
Yeah. And it remember, did you watch the Jetsons? They had the Foodarakicycle. You push the button and it makes your meal. This thing was making candy. And it was 3D printing, this sour candy that was oh so delicious, and put it into your mouth and it just vaporized.
Really?
It was
vaporized.
Vaporized isn't the right word.
Interesting term, though.
Yeah. it just disappeared into flavor. It was the coolest thing, but not practical for anything I'm doing. So
chances are you're not going to be able to print a Whopper with cheese yet.
No, but you know what? That's maybe not Whopper with cheese, but some new food they haven't invented yet.
Right. Okay. Could be. That would be nice. And we're getting to food replicators now on Star Trek.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, put the right flavored protein matrix goo in there, and it spits out this beautiful dessert. They had wedding cakes. That all of these incredible filigree patterns on them were 3D printed and completely edible, and it was pretty neat. But and that's where I see that being functional. Taking a bunch of weed whacker, string and printing out a useful object.
Right.
Doesn't seem to. It's not there yet. The finished quality isn't there. The durability of the finished product isn't there. They do some amazing things, but I don't think it's quite ready for.
So what other cool things did you see at CES? Because there's got to be a lot of cool things to see at CES.
Sure, I saw. A lot of video technology that's coming out. The 4K video was pretty neat stuff.
Is it noticeable? Is it a noticeable improvement?
Yeah, well,
over HD.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Particularly in color, the quality of color and the resolution is just unbelievable. But just like anything else, you got monitors there that can do all sorts of resolution, but no sources that can produce it. So.
Right.
It's again not ready for prime time. It's CES is a great place to see the products that you may never that may never come to market.
Right.
But they will spur the next steps. I was looking for other useful objects that I could sell in the showroom that maybe were not necessarily vape related, but more high-end lifestyle related.
Okay, so you said something there. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. The showroom.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Because we are talking right now from the Zen Vape Lounge.
ZFO. It's the Zen Factory Outlet.
The Zen Factory Outlet.
Yeah.
Okay. And you guys are going to see some photos and what's going on here. It's really comfortable. It's really impressive. Well, we'll talk about that later. So something else that you probably can't 3D print at this point is the ZNA.
No.
I can't go download a file and just print it myself?
No, we're not quite there. The ZNA is definitely it's a manufacturing challenge, but it's a pretty neat PV, if I say so myself.
Yeah, well, I have to agree with you there. So the first time I saw the ZNA was VaporCon, right?
Which was the second public appearance of it.
Right.
Yeah, the first public appearance was at Vapetoberfest in Long Beach.
Okay. So you had it back then.
Yeah.
See, he really doesn't tell me anything. Like I don't know him, Brandon, they're all the same.
You did have no idea that that was coming until you saw it at VaporCon that first night.
Right. And so I released some of the photos.
Yeah.
And people said, you leaked the photos, and that was by design, actually. I asked your permission to put those photos out there.
Yeah. Yeah, you've never leaked anything.
No.
Yeah, you've never leaked anything. You've always asked.
Sometimes my PV will leak, but that's why I do the reviews. Right?
There you go. Yeah, you've never actually leaked anything that I know of, or even by mistake spilled the beans.
No, that's not me.
You know what? That's a funny thing, because so many people, the minute they get some information, they attempt to leverage it into power, and out it comes. I mean, it's a lot of people, you know, you tell them something and you say, don't tell anybody, and what they take that to mean is don't tell anybody they don't already know.
Right.
You know, and lots of stuff gets leaked out that way. But you've never done that.
No.
And I appreciate it, which is why I always feel pretty open telling you what's going on, because you can keep a secret. You know, that means a lot.
Now, that does at times really suck for me, because I will know things about, I will know about things ahead of time.
Yeah, me too.
Okay?
Me too.
And then what happens is they leak or they get posted, and it almost looks like I don't know what's going on.
Exactly. Same,
Right?
Yeah, and it's the same thing here. I mean, you know, we're both you and I are pretty tight into the industry. We know what's coming, and it's like people will do that because they know we don't tell anybody. But then you get somebody else to get some information, and it's got to be, look at what I know.
Yeah.
And they play that card. And you know, and while it builds power, you know, it doesn't build trust. So, you know, what do you want? Where do you want to be in life? You know, you want to have power. You want to have people, you know, admire you and trust you for your ability to actually hang on to information. You know, it's you know, with the ZNA, it's a perfect example. I mean, you know, the DNA 30 was, you know, to be a closely held secret. You know, that. I mean, I've known about the DNA 30 since its inception. I had input into what the DNA 30 was going to become, you know, as far as features that didn't exist on the DNA 20. And there was Brandon asked me for input. I gave him input. He asked a lot of people for input. They gave him input. Some people, you know, immediately went to that, took the opportunity to say, well, don't tell anybody, but, you know, and the minute that happens, it's, you know, it's out of the bag. In the meantime, you know, you can keep your word, I can keep my word, you know. And when it comes out, it's like, Mike, you've been denying the existence of this thing. The answer is because it didn't exist. It was coming,
right,
but it didn't exist. I mean, it didn't exist until a little over a week ago, you know. So you can't, you know, and who knows how long it's really going to take to come out. As you and I both know, I mean, you know, there had been a very good possibility that this thing could have been out as early as November,
right,
and it didn't. And then December 10th, and you know, and then December 27th, and then January 15th, and nobody really had boards much before January 15th. So.
Right, the 27th is the date that we talked about.
It is, and 27th was picked because that's when the announcement was supposed to be for that board.
Right.
But it was not to be. You know, it just wasn't ready. And,
okay.
You know,
so launch day has come and gone.
Yeah.
How was it?
Terrible. Terrible.
All right, so why was it terrible? Tell everybody. Well, what happened?
Well, I don't want to throw anybody under the bus because nobody deserves to be thrown under the bus.
Okay.
Including me, or any of the vendors, you know, involved in the development of my product or the development of the DNA 30. It didn't go well because the development of the DNA 30 was delayed, and the availability of that was touchy. I didn't have the DNA 30 boards to install into my all ready to assemble product until the day before launch day. It was discussed with my vendor network. Do you want to push this thing back, or do you want to go? You want to roll with it? And we could see the benefit of both. And the decision to roll with it and get what we could get out the door is what we went with. But with the caveat of it's nothing is leaving this shop that isn't right. So that means if on launch day I ship 100, or if I ship 2, and I don't mean 200, I mean 2 units.
2 units,
okay.
right.
If on launch day that's how many I ship, then that's how many I ship, because I'm not letting them out the door wrong.
Right.
You know.
So I remember us talking about the Z2 launch, and you wanted to launch with 1,000 pieces.
Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
you didn't come anywhere near that on this launch.
No. The first run of this, is 1,000 pieces. Okay. And we're already working on the metal work and other assembly parts for the next 1,000 pieces. Because while we're busy in assembly, we're busy getting ready for the next 1,000. So that as this 1,000 is out the door, the rest are starting to roll. So, you know, we're looking for continuity on this without downtime.
Right.
Okay. Unfortunately, that's turning into the downtime is in the front instead of in the back. But the goal was to launch with 1,000. But when you have boards that 24 hours before launch day.
So it was really the boards that were holding you up.
Yeah, but I don't want Brandon to take the heat for this.
Right. I understand.
Okay?
Right.
I don't want him to take the heat for this because I don't want him to rush to hit a target that's completely arbitrary, okay? I mean, whether it's January 15th or January 30th doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is when those boards arrive that they're right.
Right.
Okay, and the boards, electrically, functionally, are absolutely right. They're spot on. Minor issue that I haven't even had a chance to discuss with Brandon because I've been so busy dealing with it on my end is minor dimensional difference between the DNA 20 and the DNA 30 on some of the boards.
And they were supposed to be the same, right?
They were, yeah, and the physical X and Y are the same, but the Z is off by anywhere from 7 to 10 thousandths in the height of where the switch button is sitting. And as we talked in the interview at VaporCon, I mentioned there's not a whole lot of room in there.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, and what there isn't is 10 thousandths of an inch. So that's how tight that is.
That's how tight it is.
Yeah. So what that turned into was we had to tool up and manufacture new switch levers that had that extra 10 thousandths of an inch clearance in them. There was no place else to get it. The only place to do would be to do that, and we couldn't fixture and modify the parts easily. It was better just to make new ones. So you got a cycle time on this switch button that's fairly long because of the way it's made on a 7-axis machine, and the cycle time's long enough that it's put us pretty well behind. But parts are here. We're rolling with them. Every product that's coming into assembly has a hiccup here or a hiccup there. That was the big hiccup, and it's really nobody's fault because when we go back and we look at DNA boards, DNA 20s, they could be off by 2 or 3 thousandths or 5. So it's within any tolerance of the spec that they've ever advertised. It's just that we didn't expect them all to be just past the outside edge of the tolerance that we were at. Doesn't matter other than the people getting angry that they didn't get one on launch day. Okay?
Yeah.
And honestly, I can't control people's obsessions. I mean, if somebody's going to be obsessed over, I must have this before you have this, then, that's, I'm sorry that I upset you. But there's nothing wrong with the product. It's simply, I toleranced it too tight. to be able to deal with that issue. Every major launch, I learn a lesson.
Here's your lesson.
That's the one for this one. But it's not turning into inferior product because we wouldn't do that. The biggest casualty in that's the launch day limited, because the launch day limited has Zen-coated, that lever that needs to be remanufactured.
Okay.
Is a Zen-coated part.
Okay.
So that means we had to make those parts and get them into metal finishing and then get them back. So, you know.
I actually want to talk to you a little bit about Zen-Coating.
Sure.
Maybe we could do that a little bit later on. Maybe you could show me that demo that, or
Sure.
you can show like the viewers the
Yeah,
demo that you
yeah,
gave me. That,
yeah, we
'cause
can do
that was pretty impressive. Because you know you hear Zen-Coat a lot, especially if you follow
Yeah.
your product line.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure that not a lot of people know what's involved with Zen-Coat.
I'm pretty sure they don't. But the biggest thing about Zen-Coat is its durability is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's not a metal finish on a PV, or most there's not a metal finish on most objects in the world that's as tough as Zen-Coat is. And Zen-Coat sounds just like a buzzword.
Right.
If I were to look back at 2013 and say what was my major innovation in 2013, Z2 was cool. Z2 went really well. I sold a ton of Z2. The haters hate it, the lovers love it, you know, just as expected. But Zen-Coat was the biggie.
Yeah.
Was the biggie for me. To be able to get this type of metal finish onto a PV product or any consumer product that is that tough, you know.
Is Zen-Coat known as anything else, or is it being used? Is the process being used for anything else?
Zen-Coat is not known as anything else.
Okay.
In fact, we have the trademark on the name Zen-Coat.
Okay.
The patent on the process behind it is held by someone else, and I have access to it as a license agreement, but the formulas of Zen-Coat are exclusively mine.
Okay.
Okay, so the process isn't mine, the formulas are. Okay, and the whole thing with Zen-Coat is if I had not had access to information through the military, I never would have known that Zen-Coat the process that creates Zen-Coat existed. And we took what was that was a coating for creating bearing surfaces and heat dissipating surfaces. We took that, and then working with with another group, we're able to come up with the ways to change colors in it. Okay. And I wish I could tell you it was entirely my science, because it isn't my science. It was my pushing them to get colors. Okay. That made it happen. But it's you know, people could figure out ways to do similar things, but they can't figure out ways to do this. It's pretty special. It's pretty special.
Cool. Well, we're gonna see more about that.
Yeah.
So before we take a closer look at the ZNA and we take a look at the packaging, because the packaging wasn't available when I saw it.
Right.
Take a look at the serial number.
Sure.
And how you've done everything there.
Yeah.
You said that you worked with Brandon at Evolve.
Yeah.
With and maybe toss some ideas around. Maybe some of your ideas were used. What would you say are the biggest feature differences, other than the fact that the DNA 20 is 20 watts and the DNA 30 is 30 watts? What else is going on in there?
My biggest gripe with I had two big gripes with the DNA 20. And gripe number one was every time I put it in my pocket and took it back out, it was at 20 watts or it was at 7 watts, depending on how it went into my pocket. Okay? And yes, you can lock it and put it in your pocket and it'll hold everything. But then you take it out of your pocket and you gotta unlock it, and then and it's like, I'm not big on that stuff. I just want to put it in my pocket, you know. And if I happen to forget to lock it, I definitely don't want to take it out, hit the button, and pop a coil. or get a nasty flavor, you know,
Sure.
or any of that kind of stuff. So early on, Brandon and I had discussed that it would be important for me, in order to utilize this board, that the wattage be lockable.
Right.
Okay. To me, lockable wattage is one of the most important features that was missing from the DNA 20. I was pretty adamant about it.
Okay.
And Brandon felt that he could put it in, but he's not the guy that's doing the program.
Okay.
So he said it's doable. We proceeded. Very close to the last minute, he said we may not be able to incorporate that feature.
Oh, no.
And I said, oh no.
You wanted that.
It will be in there.
Yeah.
He said, well, what feature can you live without then? Because there's probably not enough room in there to do it. And I said, I could live without stealth. You know, that doesn't mean that much to me. It might mean something to a small percentage of the people out there, but I can definitely live without it.
Right.
So if you've got to give up stealth to get power lock, then give up stealth to get power lock. But I'm buying a lot of these boards. I want power lock.
Right.
So at the last minute, they pulled it off. They got me power lock. And the way power lock works is you push both buttons simultaneously,
Okay.
hold it about 5 seconds, and locks the power.
Okay.
The power lock will not hold through a battery change.
Okay.
So if you change the battery, the power is live again,
Right.
because that's a reboot.
Sure.
Okay. You can definitely live with that though. So it can't live through a power change, but when you push both buttons, it locks it down. It'll say, it'll say locked.
Does it still have stealth mode?
It does still have stealth mode.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay. So
yeah.
we didn't lose.
We
that
didn't
feature.
lose stealth. And the other thing that I was, that's the big feature as far as I'm concerned. Okay. The other one was a nuisance.
Let's see if you hit mine. Go ahead.
Checking a check battery.
No, that's not it. But go ahead.
What was yours?
I hate how long it stays lit.
We got that taken care of too.
Okay, that's fixed too.
Yeah, that was.
Well, not fixed, but is it adjustable or
It's
is it
not
just-
adjustable. That would require a much more comprehensive menu system, and frankly, most people wouldn't be adjusting it.
Okay,
It's much shorter.
good.
Okay, so it stays bright, then it dims down, and then it goes into sleep much faster. I don't know what the dwell time is on it, but it's way faster.
All right, that's good.
It's a little brighter, okay? So during the daylight outside, that was another beef that I had, was it wasn't quite
A little easier to see
a
now.
little hard to see outdoors in the sun, although we haven't had much sun here since.
We don't know what sun is in Rochester.
Yeah. But it's a little brighter for outdoors. That was one thing that I requested, but I'm not the only guy that requested that. It's a shorter dwell time on the screen being lit. I'm not the only guy that requested that.
My argument was, I almost feel in a way it was making me vape more.
It's calling you, isn't it?
Exactly. I would have it in my cup holder, and I would watch television, and it was lit, and it was like, come on, Phil, vape me.
Yeah.
That's how I felt.
Yeah, I can see that. To me, though, I mean, it's generally, they don't go to sleep on me too often anyway. But it goes to sleep more often than the other one did, because the other one was always going.
Yeah,
And the display doesn't draw that much current. It wasn't a big deal to have it on. It's just that it's, the display, even it was dim. It was dimmer than it is now. But the display would light up your bedroom at night. I mean, it was fairly bright.
It's almost as bad as a Pro Vari when the battery starts to go dead and this thing starts flashing. This will flash and light up from across the room.
Oh yeah,
it's so bright.
Yeah, you see it going. So the check battery thing
that's the other one.
was a nuisance, because it never should have said check battery. Okay, because what it's doing when it says, when you see check battery, viewer, what do you think you should do?
Charge the battery.
Think you should charge the battery.
That's not the case.
Then why does it also occasionally say weak battery?
Yeah.
Well, wait a minute. Hang on a second. And then why does it do that and have a battery indicator on it? What's with all of this battery stuff? And on the DNA 20, every time that PV did anything involving the battery that might have caused you to not be able to vape when you pushed the button, it gave you a display.
Right.
Okay? And in this case, it said check battery. It should have said checking battery.
Okay.
Okay?
Right, yeah.
Because that's what it's doing when it says check battery. It's checking the battery condition.
There's a lot, and I talked to Brandon about this, there's a lot of battery monitoring going on in
Tons.
the DNA.
Tons.
Okay, probably a lot more than any other PV out there.
Yeah, it's. I don't think that it's second to none, but it's up there with. It's up there with ProVape.
Okay.
ProVape is doing. I think ProVape's battery monitoring is. It's giving you less feedback of its battery monitoring, but it is monitoring that battery in a way that no other PV does. They are battery guys.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, this is interesting because this kind of leads into a pet peeve that a lot of people have with Evolve and with the DNA, is that there's no reverse battery protection.
That's right.
And to me, that is still a huge thumbs down.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
But there's a reason behind it.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. There's a reason why, there's a reason, there's a couple of reasons why. The first reason, the easiest way to do reverse battery protection is throw a diode in it.
Right.
The
Because that allows for voltage or current to run one way.
one way and not the other.
Right.
Okay? But it's a one-way valve for electricity, for DC power. But you can't send information back, you can't look back at something behind it, okay? So if you put, two big problems with a big diode. Number one, it's a big diode that can handle this much current. Okay, when we start talking about 12 amps of draw at max, okay, the 12 amp diode would be the biggest component on the board. That's problem number one.
It takes up space.
Problem number two, the best diode has got drop across it, okay? The best of them will have some drop across it. That's an issue, okay? But more importantly is you can't look back through a diode at the condition of the battery,
Okay.
okay? So unless you figure out some way to bypass that to get back there and all that kind of stuff, now we're adding component after component after component. The price is going through the roof. When the PV manufacturer should simply prevent you from putting a battery in backwards.
And basically that's what you've done.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
So you put like a piece of Delrin in there,
Yeah.
you're going to require a nipple top.
Exactly.
A nipple top's going to have to go through to make
Right.
contact. If you use a
Yeah.
flat top and you go the other way,
Yeah.
it's not going to make contact.
Yeah, and I'm not going to tell you that that's an absolute solution.
It's not a foolproof, right?
It's not foolproof because there are ways to cram stuff and make all sorts of things go wrong. You could conceivably put a battery in here backwards and still have an issue. Okay.
And what is the issue with the DNA board if you put a battery in backwards?
It fails to work ever again.
It fries the board.
Yeah,
doesn't
it's
it?
done.
Yeah, I know.
Well, and that's the way it is with any of these circuits. You give it reverse polarity and it's done. So don't put your battery in backwards, even though I've incorporated mechanical battery, reverse battery protection. Don't put it in just to see it work. Okay.
or see it not work.
Or see
It's
it
a
not
bad
work.
idea.
Okay. It prevents most bad things from happening, but it's possible to get it, to
Okay.
have it go wrong.
Now,
And no one's going to get it any better, okay, shy of making it so that it works with most nipple top batteries instead of all nipple top batteries.
Right.
There's a tolerance here that we got to work within, and it's close.
do you prefer nipple top over button top? I just like the way nipple top sounds better.
I do too.
Right, you too?
I enjoy a nipple. See, here's the thing. Okay, so there's flat top batteries, there's button top batteries, there's nipple top batteries.
There's a difference between button and nipple?
Absolutely.
Tell me.
The button top is wider than a nipple, okay, and not as wide as a flat.
I've seen a few nipples in my time.
Yeah, me too. Well, there's some, and nipples do come in all shapes and sizes.
For those of you who don't know, he actually does have a sense of humor too.
Yeah.
I mean, you may not like just look at him and think about that, but he really does. He's kind of a fun guy to hang around, and I learn a lot too.
So anyway, yeah, there is really nipple top, button top.
Okay, see, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
All right, so you just said something. You said something about safety, and I want to talk to you about that a little bit, okay?
Yep.
You've always been about safety.
Almost obnoxiously.
Okay.
Yeah.
And perhaps even some of your mechanicals may have suffered in the conductivity area because you are so into safety.
Sure.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. Now,
I crippled them.
and I know you get beat up on this.
I don't care.
I know you don't care.
I will defend that decision, right to the very end. I intentionally made them so that there's some current limiting in them if you use them as delivered.
Right.
You can modify your way around it.
Right.
But I ship it so that the average consumer gets it that isn't going to modify it and use it that way and get a satisfying vape.
Right.
Okay. Sub-owners hate that, and they don't want to be bothered to change it. They'll modify everything else, but they don't want to modify mine because I've said, well, I did it on purpose. Okay. And I did do it on purpose. I want the device to not blow up in your face. And guess what? They haven't.
They haven't.
There's a
So
lot of them out there.
I know. So right down to, I mean, what some people may not understand is that Zen and House of Hybrids is a legitimate business. Okay,
Right.
so you pay insurance. You have
Lots of that,
your
yeah.
devices are insured.
Yeah.
You have liability,
Product
insurance,
liability
product
and business liability. Yeah.
You pay your staff. I mean, there's.
Oh, these guys have good jobs. Yeah, the people that work for me have good jobs. They earn a good living wage. They have 401ks. They have health care insurance. They have vacation time. This is a real concern, and it gives us a competitive disadvantage. Because a guy who decides I'm going to learn how to use Google SketchUp, and in fact, I'll be fair, a guy that has a great idea for a PV, okay, and understands how to get it to market, okay, and is going to make 50 or 100 of them, and that guy that's doing that doesn't have all the overhead. That guy doesn't have all that. And as a consumer, you could say, well, I don't want to pay for all that overhead. That's fair. You can say, well, I'd rather just this guy here is a better value and blah, blah, blah. Only problem is he's not. The only problem is the PV that Cosmo let's say John Smith out here decides he's got a great idea and he wants to make the Cosmo Wizatron bovine ficus PV or whatever
I
you
love
want to
that
call it.
one. Right, go ahead.
Okay, he's going to make that, and he goes to a machine shop and he has all of the parts made and he pays $50 to have all the parts made or $70 because it's a short run, and he marks it $225. You as the consumer are still paying for the product liability insurance he's not buying, and the 401ks he's not giving employees because he doesn't have any, and all of the overhead you're paying because they price them to the market.
Right.
They don't look at it and say, I'll make it $38, or $100. They make it $250. Right?
To the market, not to their overhead.
To the market, not to their overhead. Okay. So you're still paying the money, but you're not buying any of the stuff that comes with it. You're not buying the 401ks for the employees. You're not buying the health care insurance for those employees. You're not, so you can say, well, I don't want to pay that. Well, guess what? You're still paying it. It's just that it's all going in some guy's pocket that hopefully someday will grow his business to the point where he can do all of this too.
Right.
And maybe that's the dream, is you got to start somewhere, why not start there?
Right.
The only thing is you don't save that money as a consumer. It just all goes into building that guy's business. We had insurance from the start, For 6 months we didn't have employees, but after that we started bringing on people, and because we've grown this into a pretty good sized business. I mean you've seen what's here.
Yeah.
You've seen what's here, and you've seen it evolving. Also, I mean, the first time you walked in this place, it was a big garage.
Yeah.
And you've seen what it's turned into in the facility that got built here, and that's where the money from these PVs should be going. That's when when something gets built, that's where it should be going. It should be getting to the point where we can do more and more and more and more.
And there will be more and more from you.
You bet.
You are not stopping with the ZNA. I'm sure you're thinking about the next thing already.
Yeah, Yeah, the next several things are really on the drawing board. Some are closer than others to, you know, to come into market. But yeah, we've got a major revamp of Z2 coming that should be out by Vape Bash. Oh yeah, we're not resting.
So anyway, well, I was leading into something before. So you're all about the safety thing, and
Yeah, I know where you're heading.
I know you know where I'm headed because we talked about this already. My question to you is because I got this question.
Yeah.
Okay, and I looked at the numbers and I said, "Wow, you're right." Okay. The DNA 30 board,
Yeah.
set for 30 watts,
Yep.
requires something like a 12 amp draw from the battery, right?
Not something like,
It's-
but damn near exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
See,
It's-
I do my homework sometimes.
Yeah.
Being the safety guy that you are,
Yep.
you're offering the ZNA, it comes standard with the 18490 battery too.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yet, there are no 18490 batteries that I know of anyway, maybe there are, I don't know, that offer a 12 amp draw.
Not today.
Okay.
Not today.
Okay.
They're coming,
Oh, I'm sure they're coming.
They're coming.
I'm sure they're coming.
but not today.
Okay, so being, and I know the answer already, but being the safety guy that you are,
Sure.
how do you do that? What's happening there? How can you still, how is it still safe if you set it for 30 watts?
Well, okay, so let's just do some comparisons.
Okay.
Okay? I gave you a real short form of the answer when you asked it to me. Now I'm going to give you a little bit longer
Good,
form.
good,
okay?
good, see, good.
All right. So let's take this PV apart and turn it into a mechanical and put a switch on it. And okay. And now let's put a 0.3 amp, 0.3 ohm coil on there, or whatever it's going to be to make it so that 490 battery is trying to deliver 30 watts.
Right.
Right. You push that button and you put that battery into a pretty bad situation.
Okay.
Because your load is trying to pull more current than the battery can safely deliver.
Right.
This is why I hate mechanicals with sub-ohm.
Right.
Okay. Because you as the consumer can put the battery into a condition that it's unable to protect itself from. Okay. So to pull that kind of current, you need a battery that can deliver that kind of current. And if it can't, the battery goes flat, and it can get into a very bad situation.
Okay. It could vent.
Could vent.
Right.
Sure. And if it vents, it could do really unattractive things.
Sure.
Like burn your house down.
Right.
Knock your teeth out.
Right.
You know, fun stuff like that.
Right.
So that's why interestingly enough, that's why the switch on my PV, on my mechanicals, comes in at 0.3 ohms.
Right.
So if you happened to dead short the thing, it still has some load there, okay? Not necessarily a safe one, but that in combination with a coil perhaps will get you up into a safer range, okay? So what's the difference between then the mechanical version of my PV and the ZNA version? The ZNA has the DNA 30 board in it.
Right.
And the DNA 30 board, first thing it does when you turn it on, it says, "Hi battery, how you doing? Let's have a little conversation here. What are you? And how you feeling today?" Okay? And it says, and the battery says, "Oh, you know, I'm about 6 months old and I don't feel all that well. My internal resistance is a little higher than I'd like it to be, but you know, the doctor says I should be okay to vape for another couple of months, you know, and so let's just go ahead and proceed, right?" Or it says, "Hey, battery, how you doing today? Nice to see you. Let's get some work done. Oh man, you're not well at all, are you?" It looks at how much, it looks at the battery and it says, what kind of condition are you in and what kind of load can I put on you? Okay. And it tells that through a variety of telltale signs that you aren't going to be able to do with an ohm meter. Okay. One of those things is the internal resistance running a little high. If the internal resistance is running a little high on that battery, it's sort of on the back end of its life. Okay. It can tell the condition of the battery. But more importantly, if that battery doesn't have enough current and it sees the voltage sagging because of the load, the board says, "Hey, I'm going to help you out here and make it so we don't put that big of a load on you." So the short version of the long story is the DNA 30 board, and we talked about the battery monitoring earlier too. The DNA 30 board is looking at that battery, examining its capability, and will prevent any kind of a load that it can't deliver from hitting that battery. So this device will go to 30 watts, but it isn't going to go to 30 watts more than a punch or two on an 18490 battery.
Okay.
Okay. So I feel perfectly safe putting an 18490 battery on there for a lot of reasons. Reason number one is it's not going to present a load to that battery that it can't handle.
What is the minimum load on the DNA 30? I know the answer, but
I don't know the minimum load.
0.5.
It's 0.5, yeah. I know it's low.
According to the spec.
Yeah. So this device is monitoring the condition of that battery. It looks at it and it says, can you deliver this? And by the way, if you want to vape at 30 watts on this thing all day long, you're going to probably put an 18650 tube on it,
I was going there next.
Use a battery that's more suitable for the purpose.
Right.
But here's the thing: most people that I've talked to, and by most people I mean everybody but that 1 or 2% that actually sub ohms down at that crazy wattage levels, which aren't so crazy now with this, but almost everybody I talk to never gets above about 18 or 19 watts, okay? In fact, most of them are hovering in the 10 to 13 watt range.
That would be me.
And the second largest group is hovering between 7 and 10, okay? So for, I want to say 98% of the people that buy this device, the 18490 battery isn't just appropriate, it's preferred. It's smaller, the whole thing comes in lighter. The size of this thing is diminutive compared to anything else on the market with the same capability. I mean, it's dinky compared to what else is out there in the same power ranges, or even not even close to the same power ranges. Just
So bottom line, perfectly safe to use with the 18490.
Perfectly safe.
You can go up to an 18650,
yeah.
And the device itself is Z2 compatible.
That's right. So
the Z2 tubes will work fine.
And you can just unthread this tube right here, take it right off, and put on the 18650 tube. It's 15 millimeters longer, and off you go.
And although the 18650 battery tube sticks out further, it still stands upright.
It does. However,
okay.
I'd be lying if I said it was really stable.
Obviously, yeah.
Yeah. But it will stand up with an 18650 tube on it. Not a problem. And most of the beta testers, that had the aluminum versions of them, all ended up vaping pretty much religiously with the 18650 tubes.
Oh yeah.
Just because the battery life on the 490, if you're a heavy vapor, it's not going to get you through a day.
Right. Oh no,
it's not going to get you through a day. If you're a casual vapor, you're good to go.
Yeah.
But if you're a heavy vapor, you're going to do a battery change or two in a day. I vape constantly. I go through three batteries in a day.
3 18490s?
3 18490s,
okay.
Yeah. And I don't mind carrying a battery box with 2 batteries in it in my pocket. It doesn't bother me at all.
That's important too, folks, what he just said. Battery box. If you're going to put batteries in your pocket, okay, especially with keys and stuff, like change. And use a battery box because that's a short waiting to happen, okay?
And I learned that one the hard way.
Oh, yeah, I have friends whose purses are on fire.
Yeah, I haven't had anything catch on fire, but I got a pretty good bit of heat in my pocket one day from my keys.
Oh yeah.
I was real early on, wasn't really thinking about it much, but if you ever have that happen, you never stop thinking about it because it gets hot real fast.
Real fast.
And then you do the dumbest thing you could possibly do. You put your hand in it with it, and now you get to burn your finger too.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely highly recommended to respect the power that's in one of these batteries, because they will heat up fast.
I know, this happened to me. This is actually funny. I'm measuring the length of a particular battery.
Oh, I've done this.
With digital calipers that are all metal. Yeah, not smart.
I am so embarrassed to admit that.
Oh, see, good. I'm glad
Yeah, no, you are so not alone. You are so not alone.
Can I taste your juice?